Hello, everyone there. This is Joe Roof, former Cal football, now president of the Big C Society. Together with us are Robert Paler, who's the incoming director of the Big C Society, and our special guest, Justin Forsett, formerly of Cal football, Seattle Seahawks, Jacksonville Jaguars, Baltimore Ravens, Detroit Lions, Denver Broncos, and now the co-founder and CEO of the popular body wipe company, Hustle Clean. So for our listeners, here's a little bit of background on Justin. He grew up in Florida with a couple of years of high school in Texas, all world, played football for the Golden Bears under former head coach Jeff Tedford, alongside a couple of other mildly talented running backs and J.J. Arrington and Marshawn Lynch. Earned 4 varsity letters from 2004 to 2007 and graduated with a BS in interdisciplinary studies with a focus on field globalization and consumer behavior, which is probably serving you well at Hustle and Clean since you've got a consumer-facing company now. Yep. And I also wanted to tell a quick story of like what a wonderful guy Justin is. He and I have a mutual friend in Andrew McGraw, Cal football, whose best friend Dino regrettably passed away about 10 years ago from cancer. And just after Justin landed with the Seahawks in the NFL draft. Anyway, so Dino was a huge Seahawks fan like me. I don't know if you know that, Justin. I went to high school in Seattle. And when Justin heard about his passing, he had a Steve Largent jersey made and overnighted it to Dino's family. And that turned out to be one of the most, touching moments during their period of grieving. And it's emblematic of just how Justin is always quietly doing something special for everybody around him. So anyway, good work, man. Good. I love that. And welcome to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk today.
Yeah. By the way, did you see that New York Times article on McGraw?
No, I didn't.
Ooh, I'm going to send that to you afterwards. He's getting some pub. Yeah.
Nice. He deserves it.
Yeah, he definitely does. Okay, so I remember hearing, the prior to your year with the Ravens, which is a breakout year for you in the NFL, you were thinking about hanging up your cleats. And I was just wondering, can you tell me the story, or the moment or moments, like when you seriously started thinking about life after football and was it in Jacksonville, like when you were released or, knowing that you were a student of Professor Etter back at Cal and you had coach in your ear, were you taking steps to transition to post-football life when you were back at Cal?
For sure. So I started thinking about post-football life around year 3. I was still up in Seattle. And at that point, I was fired or cut twice. At that point, I want to say twice. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, if I don't make a team, what's next for me? Like, what am I going to do? And at the same time, there was a Sports Illustrated article that came out about athletes becoming broke. And there was a statistic that said that 80% of football players 2 years after they retire from the NFL or leave the game, they're either bankrupt, divorced, or depressed. And I didn't want to be in that statistic. I knew there was more for me out there. I knew that football was not my identity. Like I knew that that I wanted more for my life than to see repeat this cycle that we had seen in sports, where you see these kids come from humble beginnings. They go out to college, they get education, they go to the NFL or NBA, get drafted, only to return to humble circumstances and struggling financially. And I didn't want to be in that statistic. I saw guys like Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Roger Staubach, Emmitt Smith that kind of really use sports to propel them into the next phase of life. Even Michael Strahan, as I continued to go on in the NFL. And I wanted to be in that number, in that statistic. And it really hit me hard during Jacksonville. That was year 6 for me. And it just, nothing was going right. I was definitely the underdog coming into that situation. It was just the darkest moment of my career, a lot of rejection, a lot of disappointment, had an injury, had to overcome, and I couldn't play. They wouldn't put me on the field for anything. I couldn't get a carry. I think that whole season I had 5 carries before I got hurt. I think I got injured around week 11. And it was just a hard pill for me to swallow. And I figured if I couldn't play for the Jacksonville Jaguars with a 4-win team, who could I play for? So I was thinking about what would be next, and it was coming more real to me at that time.
Got it. Did you consider like getting an MBA before you started Shower Pill, or like, can you give us a sense of like the range of like roles that appealed to you and why, and then like sort of how you like MBA, other roles, entrepreneurship as a part of it. I know you have a speaking business. Like, right. How did that all kind of unfold?
Well, I was looking at my gifts and my strengths. I was trying to work within the talents that I felt that God gave me. So I knew I was a problem solver. I knew I was creative. I knew I was a storyteller. I knew I was a leader. And those things kind of really led me to what I was really passionate about. One, encouraging people, lifting people up. So that's why I started the speaking business while I was playing. And then the other thing was entrepreneurship. Like, I want to be able to create opportunities for people in my community, people that look like me, people that came from certain backgrounds. And I wanted to really establish this legacy of empowering people. And entrepreneurship was the best way to go about that because it was the way that I saw my parents. They were entrepreneurs. They had a restaurant when I was growing up. So I really had an example from them, and I just wanted to continue on and create something for myself and for my family that we could be proud of.
Yeah, that's interesting. I often wonder I think once you've occupied, some, like, let's just say position of authority, or where you have a lot of, you're in a position of influence, whether it's on a football team or something else. I remember hearing one guy who was a former entrepreneur say this, like, once you've been CEO, like, you don't really want to do any other jobs. It's like, I'm wondering if you're, that like sense of self, like after you had all this success as a running back, did it give you confidence and did you just did you have to level into that place, or would you have even been comfortable going to, say, work as a part of a team at someplace like Apple or, some other company?
Yeah, I believe what suited me well was that being an athlete or being anything at a high level, it takes a level of insanity. And to be a football player in the NFL, you have to be insane. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to be insane. And so that transition really worked for me. Like, I just knew I wanted to be great. And the vehicle in which to do so just happened to be entrepreneurship. But that's why football was in its rightful place for me, or its proper place for me. So I never just wanted to be an all-pro running back. I wanted to be an all-pro father. I want to be an all-pro businessman. I want to be an all-pro husband. So I believe that if you're really chasing greatness in life, you cannot just section off. Like, it's not like a pie. Like, you can't just say, this is a part of my life here. I want to be great in football, but I'm going to be a lousy father, a lousy husband. Yeah. That's not greatness. Like, greatness, if it was an apple pie, greatness is the filling. So any part that you cut out of me, like, you're going to get greatness. There's a standard there that's set. So that's what I wanted. And being an entrepreneur, like, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be, the Steve Jobs. That's what I was going after. And if I was speaking, I wanted to be the Zig Ziglar. So that's what I was really chasing. And entrepreneurship just happened to be the vehicle. Could I work somewhere like on Madison Avenue, working for an ad agency? Sure. I believe so. And I want to have impact there. But I was really passionate about being an entrepreneur and building a legacy and creating opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, I feel you there. There's a word for this. Some people call it enterprise control, where you want to have control over the canvas. You're okay with both positive and negative outcomes, always driving. So for those of our listeners that don't know, Justin's wife, her name is formerly Angie Preseed. She's like one of the best volleyball players ever to play at Cal. And I mentioned that because we have a great Cal family here. But it's a sort of an antecedent to my next question, which is like, I wonder if you could just bring us back and describe the conversation when you first mentioned to Angie that, you wanted to skip out on, some other lucrative career like Madison Avenue and instead start your own wipes company, like, with, uncertain revenue and probably some investment by you guys and so forth.
Yeah, I don't think she understood what I was getting into, and I don't think I fully understood. everything that being an entrepreneur would entail.
Well, no one would. Ben Horowitz talks about this in his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. If anyone knew how hard it was going to be, no one would do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so that's the insanity part.
Yeah.
And then, so my wife, because it was a side hustle, we started out and we were just simply a wipe company that was one wipe, and it was like really attacking this pain point within the locker room or fitness space. When a shower was optimal but not possible, we were going to be the solution. And it was called Shower Pill. And so it was something I was doing on the side. Wife, they was like, oh, that's really cool. That's cute that you're going out there after practice and you're driving down to Redmond, Washington and renting, and you're going out and you're pitching to these local bike shops and running stores off of Lake Washington. And it just started to really grow. Like, it was a category that we had to do a lot of educating, and it just grew into this big thing now.
Okay, so was this during your first stint with the Seahawks or your second stint?
So my second stint. So
okay,
my first
all right.
Stint, it was really short, my first stint. So I made the roster my rookie year. First game of the year, I was on the roster. Second game, they released me to get me on practice squad, but the Colts picked me up, and I was there for 4 weeks, and then I came back. And that was my second stint. I finished out my contract there.
Nice. Well, there you go. See, you're definitely you're mid NFL career, but you're like, all right, I got to get rolling. I've got an idea here, but you weren't certain about it then. You just thought you had an idea. You wanted to try and get a signal from the market, right?
Exactly.
All right. So when did you start raising money for this? And can you give aspiring entrepreneurs kind of in our audience a sense of the tranches of fundraising? You raise this much money, you move the troops this far, you raise your next slug of money, you go the next stage and so forth. You start off with putting in your own money or maybe friends and family. Can you give a sense of how that unfolds?
Yeah, it started off with putting up your own money and putting up my own money into the company, my other founders putting in their money. And then, that just kind of gets you that minimum value product that you have out there to put and kind of really test and see if there's anybody interested in what you're offering. So we had that, and then after a couple years of that and seeing where that got us, then we raised outside capital, friends and family. I know people say there's 3 F's, friends, families, and fools doing that next round.
A lot of risk in the early days. Yeah.
A lot of risk. You're really trying to find product market fit. It's trying to see how you're going to really establish your kind of go-to-market strategy and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff up in the air. And
so can you give us a sense there, just in terms of numbers, are you raising $1 million in this round or $500,000, $250,000?
No, a couple thousand.
Couple thousand bucks.
Couple $1,000 early on, put out of our pocket. At that point, I didn't have a big contract at all in the NFL. So I was literally one of the guys that, I didn't know if I was going to make the team the next year, for a couple of those years. So had to be very strategic. I was kind of played everything close to the vest, saving as much as I could, but this was kind of my one risk. So, and it was something that, I love betting on myself because I can control that to a degree. So, So I was all for it. And then the next round, you start bringing on some outside capital with your friends and family, like I said. And that was a couple $100,000. Mm-hmm. And we were there for a minute, for some years, before we started getting in to trying to raise, $1 million round. So
now, were you guys paying yourself at this point, or was this all just going to marketing and product development?
No paying, no. We took no money. So it was all just like the love of the game. And everything was going to the baby, to feed the baby, make sure it was healthy. And there was no salary to that point. So
for all the aspiring entrepreneurs out there, this is a really important point as you start moving along, when you start getting into more serious money, and even in your pre-seed stage, your investors are going to look at this period that Justin was in, and it's really important that you put the company first. as opposed to putting yourself first. So that involves a lot of pain and sacrifice. You be ready for that. Like you have to like prep, save, because that is looked on very favorably in subsequent rounds. Keep going.
Yeah, you got to believe in yourself at that point, and you're trying to build something where when you get to the point you're trying to bring on some bigger capital, you're not trying to give away as much.
That too.
So I think that's important to note, because the most valuable thing that you can give away is equity, and you don't just give somebody equity off the first date, right? That equity is marriage. That is something you're putting a ring on somebody, and that is forever. And remember to get everything vested early on. That's another thing that when you're starting a company, making sure everything is structured right, make sure you have a solid operating agreement. I don't know what you guys call it on the West Coast, but all those things, getting the right legal team to help you through that process is important, and even fundraising to make sure that cap table is
100%
looks good.
You need a lawyer, and there's a lot of lawyers that actually will do the first whatever. $25,000 of work, $30,000 of work for free. If they see that you're going to build a kind of company that's going to get to a Series A or something, and then they collect the funds in the end. But yeah, really, really important to have a lawyer. You really can't understand how important that is.
Hugely important.
So somewhere in there, you go and onto Shark Tank like in 2018 and pitch. Like, now, were you really thinking about raising money from them? I know they called you.
Yeah.
Or was it more of like just a promotional opportunity? Like, let's talk about that. How'd you prep? How'd that unfold? Did it drive any growth? Like, what happened?
Man, so anytime I get asked about Shark Tank, it is a pivotal point within the business. And even though we didn't get a deal on that, and it was probably one of the worst pitches in Shark Tank history, but you
haven't seen my pitches that were early. I didn't go to Shark Tank, but they were bad.
Man, it was definitely bad. But we prepped so hard. We did the work. It was when the lights came on, just not being able to tell that story, financial side of the story, the way that the investor wanted to hear it. And that was kind of the dissonance there with them. But we definitely, first, the process is very strenuous. You're signing away, documents. It's basically giving your life away. That was the longest application I've ever been a part of. And then to only, I knew I was in a certain situation. I was more than likely going to be on air because of the background. But there's tons of people that were out there. And, you go for this first round. You're flying out to L.A. You're going through the process of seeing as first round of producers, letting them hear your pitching story, and then they're making cuts there, and then all of a sudden you don't even know if you're going to be able, if you can fly out there, tell them your story. There's a likely, more than likely you're probably not going to air on TV. There's a lot of people that don't air. So we were blessed and fortunate to air, and then we got there. We got some great feedback from a lot of the Sharks that were there, whether it was Mark Cuban, Lori Grenier,
Mr.
Barbara.
Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful wasn't there, thankfully. It might have been worse. But A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez was there as a guest. Mark Hershovitz was there. So it was the best thing that could have happened to us to be able to get there, get exposure, be kind of the first movers in that space on the national phase that really propelled us to some great things right after.
Cool. So let's talk about that just 1 minute more. So what specifically did you, in retrospect, do you think that the investors were looking for in the description of your business that somehow wasn't in your pitch? Like, you probably told the narrative of like how your company came to be and so forth. Yep. Like what were they really looking for? Were they looking for unit economics? Were they looking for your pro forma financials over 5 years? Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
So how do you scale? How do you scale this business? What do the economics look like? Those things early on, not having a full grasp on that, looking back, like, you got to be able to tell that story. There's no way around that. Like, it doesn't matter how great your business is doing. If you can't communicate how well the business is and the plan for that, going forward the next few years, then you're not going to get an investor on. You got to understand the numbers inside and out, and that was kind of what led to us not going to do.
You know, it's a really good thing for entrepreneurs. You're thinking about like some business that you want to pitch. You got to be able to say like, okay, for every dollar that we earn, you know, this number of cents goes to, you know, SG&A. This is, you know, what we spend on, you know, salaries and so forth. Like here's our net, you know, earnings, you know, per dollar. And then as we grow, here's the inflection points where our profit actually starts to increase because we get, you know, better economies of scale, our cost of goods goes down and so forth, and other sort of investments that you need. Because the investors, they want to hear what you're going to use their money for. Right? Sure. It's like, what's the use of proceeds? You're going to take this dough, and then, by the way, how am I going to get rich after I give you this money? How am I going to like go back to my family and be like, yeah, look, check out look at that investment. I'm a superstar. Yep. That's basically what investors want to know, is how they're going to make money. You know, they're going to be able to brag to other people, like in parties, that they found this awesome new company, you know, called Shower Velvet. So yeah, all right, that's awesome. Okay, now go ahead. You had something else?
Oh no! I was just saying. After Shark Tank, we went on to Good Morning America, The View, and that really propelled us into Target, where we got national distribution there.
Sweet.
And so it was really great for the brand.
Well, that's really useful too. Another great thing, like for young companies, you know, distribution is a big deal. You know, it's expensive to find customers, you know, and so when you're on someone's shelf like Target, that gets a lot of foot traffic, and you know, you get the credibility and so forth. That's really great. I mean, now I got to switch gears here a little bit on another key aspect of starting a company, which is your co-founders. Okay, so your two co-founders, Wendell Hunter and Wale Forrester, both Cal football guys, right?
Yep, Wale.
Okay, got it. Sorry about that. So among the most consequential decisions that you'll make as an entrepreneur is who your co-founders are, who you start your company with. And this is because like you spend so much time together, you know, you make thousands of decisions or bets really, because you're doing that with decisions without complete information, you know, and sort of immense time pressure to hit milestones before you run out of cash. You know, all of that can be really destabilizing to, you know, founder relationships. You know, speaking as I had a really rocky sort of exit with my co-founder as an example. So I'm kind of interested, like, you know, how did you choose your co-founders? And then like, what's the division of labor? And, you know, do you guys have therapy sessions? Like that would have been good for us. And like meeting cadences, like how do you guys keep it all together?
Well, so the company, it started with three of us, and came together after brainstorming off season about this product, at least when it was called the Shower Pill, now Hustle Clean. And we got together, brainstormed, and said, okay, how we can really come up and use this product and take it to market. And the division of labor was more, since I was playing in the NFL, I was doing more of the biz dev side and trying to increase and create brand awareness, being a brand champion out there, where the guys were handling more of the manufacturing side, operations side of the business. So that was the division early on. And then over the years, we kind of grew into different roles, especially once I retired. I became the active CEO of the company. And actually, because of circumstances, where we're not taking a salary. Actually, Wendell had to go on and take on another job, and it was it's just Wale and I running the company now. So being able, three partners to three hot ideas, there's definitely interesting dynamic chemistry, and you're trying to always listen and over communicate as much as you can. It's very important. Even with two people now with us, Wale and I, communication is key. Making sure that the baby at the end of the day is getting taken care of. Making sure that you're communicating outside of work too. So having a relationship outside of work where everything is not business, or related, because you can have a great product, you can have a great system, but if the organization within is hurting, your business is eventually going to start hurting and suffering. So we have constant dialogues where we're getting away, where we're not talking about business. It is basically a marriage with your co-founder.
100%.
I probably talk to him more than I talk to myself. And so it is, it's constantly growing every day about the relationship. It is definitely a marriage. Everything's no day is the same when you're an entrepreneur. So
I want to expand on this topic for a minute. So in the Silicon Valley, if you were building a software company, people talk a lot about successful founder partnerships, that have really good complementary skill sets or division of labor in such a way that you're not stepping on each other and each person kind of gets to own the thing that they own. So if you're a software company, people always talk about the hustler hacker combination, where essentially you have one person who's selling and one person who's building the product. In companies, we just spoke with Joey Zwillinger, who founded Allbirds, and he pointed out that in non-tech companies, sort of without the need to have a software developer, that the division of labor it can be a little bit different. Like in his case, they have Joey does the financials, and his business partner is like the creative, and both creative as it relates to building the shoe and also marketing the shoe. So that's the way they do their division of labor. So how do you guys do it inside your company? Does what are the parts that you take? What are the parts that Wale takes?
Yeah, so for me, I handle business development, raising capital. I handle the marketing for the most part. Now, since we're a startup, we all do a lot of things. So sometimes there's some intermingling there. But he is handling more of the operation side of things, the supply chain management, a little bit of the financials as well. So that's kind of how we split it up. But we wear a lot of different hats along the day.
Do you guys ever get in any big fights? I remember some of these discussions where it's no, I really strongly think that we should do this thing. The other guy's like, well, no, I strenuously think that we should do this other thing. And another guy's, no, I strenuously think that we should do that kind of thing. How do you resolve those sorts of disputes early on?
So we just do Oklahoma drills is basically what we do.
Will you describe that for our non-footballers?
Yeah. So Oklahoma drills, it's just two of us. So we're just going to line up and put our pads on, and we're just going to try to run over each other. And the person that's on the back is the person that loses. So
I love it.
That's how we settle. No, but really, we don't have too many arguments. There are strong, passionate points where we're making about ideas for the business, but it's all guided from the lens of what's going to make the business grow. So it's not about who made the decision. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about, okay, you state your points, I state my point. Okay, and the best idea wins.
All right. Cool. Now let's talk about a day in the life. You say that no day is the same, but for the role of CEO, try and contrast for us the first couple of years when you were really rolling. Let's just say the first couple of years that you were doing Shower Pill after just the earliest days where you were doing sort of MVP pitching, where you actually had a business, you'd founded a company, you were trying to sell, to now where you actually have the target account, you're selling it Amazon, you guys are actually making some money, you're starting to think about growth probably. Contrast those two states and try and tell me how the role is same and how it's changed, the CEO role.
Well, they're the same where you're still trying to be the example, you're still leading, you're making tough decisions. But the stakes are just a little bit higher. It is the regular season versus the playoffs, and we've done a great job early on of just kind of laying the fundamentals and the foundation, so it's there, and knowing who we are and what we stand for, kind of really building the culture that we want. Now it's about bringing on the right people and making more decisions on who's going to come on the team to help us grow and scale the business, and with the new partners who's helped managing the partnerships that we have out there with the big accounts like Target. It's really moving from working in the business to working on the business is kind of the mindset. So, but it's still a lot of difficult decisions daily. I joke about it because Wale is he was a 13-year firefighter of Oakland, lieutenant of fire in Oakland. So his job has really not changed. His job description is not changed, being an entrepreneur. It's about putting out fires daily. It's about persevering. There's challenges that are going to be thrown at you, whether it's like, making sure your shipments arrive on time, making sure the supply chain is intact. And right now, sourcing your materials, especially within our industry in COVID, and your product being in high demand, making sure you're satisfying the customers, you're being innovative. Like, it's a lot of things going on right now. So
does your product supply chain extend into, like, say, China or places like that? Or you how far do you have to go to get the raw materials?
So we got manufactured here in the States and outside of the country. Mm-hmm. So we have. So
that's complicated in an environment like this.
Yes, it's good that we have multiple manufacturers, but it's still, when you hit supply chain, it's great demand. Like, we've seen up 500% growth with some of our partnerships early in the year once COVID hits. But with that, you're going through so much inventory, it can put a strain on the supply chain. So being able to account for that and make up for that, because you can't forecast a COVID. You can't.
That's right.
Your inventory is everything. Being able to manage inventory, that is capital. That is money. That's very valuable. So being able to forecast for that, even now, it is a challenge. It is like, if you ask me something that keeps me up at night, it's like, man, we want to make sure we have enough product because of those inflection points. You want to be able to maximize them when you get them.
Yeah. You don't want to have too much inventory because then you can sell yourself broke.
Yes.
Yeah. I have another friend named John Hirschberg, who started a company called JR286. I don't know if you know Dave Barr, but he that was his first job out of college, and he says they basically make all the accessories for Nike.
Yep.
And he says that's the whole business. It's inventory, just. And timing, to make sure that everything's like coming in at the right time, flowing out at the right time, because it's just money. It's like money converting from one form to another. Yeah, that's really true. That's amazing. So how many employees do you have now, or are you working with entirely contractors?
So right now, entirely contractors, but we are bringing on employees. Right now, we're in that season of life where we're going to have more full-time people on the biz, which is great. So we've been actively hiring.
Nice. Cool. We'll come back to at the end of the interview. We'll if anybody's interested, we'll reach out and ask you how they can get in touch with you. So
okay.
I want to transition now. We'd like to shift to the intangible benefits of the I'm going to guess more than 10,000 hours of time you spent running like mat drills and treating and like running, a lot of running, playing football and all the little things, that, and our audience is kind of really, really interested to see if all the time that you spent on the gridiron, particularly the intangible stuff, transfers to a post-sports career, and if so, how, and does it give you an edge? And for that, I'm gonna hand the mic off to my co-partner here, Rob Paler, who also played football before his rugby life. He's 6'5". He's a big body, so he as he said, he liked to hit people.
That's right. That was my thing. Love hitting people. Awesome, Justin. We hear a lot about these advantages that are embedded in the mindset of former athletes at work, along with these disciplines that supposedly give former athletes an edge in the workforce. For example, Stanford professor Carol Dweck has written about this in her well-known book, Mindset. Now, first, do you think that that's truth or hype that this mindset of a former athlete gives you an edge? And then if there's truth to that, do you feel like you have any football-related superpowers from your football days that are giving you an edge in your work with Hustle Clean?
I would definitely say it's true. You definitely have an edge. The athletic background, there's so many skills that transfer over. Being an entrepreneur, it is pretty scary. I know for me, the work ethic, the discipline, the commitment, all those great things that you hear all the time, like you cannot have enough of that, right? But I would say the number one thing that you need to have, and a trait that carries over from being an athlete to an entrepreneur, is the ability to persevere. Like, it is the ability to get knocked down 7 times and get up 8. Throughout my life and throughout my professional sports career, I was always told what I wouldn't be able to do, what I couldn't do. I was too short. I was too small. I was too slow. I was rejected, even getting into Cal. Like, I was never supposed to get into Cal. Like, no one wanted me. I was just not they didn't think I could withstand playing D1 football at my size. And overcoming all that rejection, it really prepared me for what I'm doing now, because even the days are hard. There are constantly people telling you no. There are constantly people telling you that this is not a great idea. When you first getting going, and then there's fires. Like I said earlier in the conversation, every day you're going to meet adversity, but can you persevere? You see, everybody wants a breakthrough, but nobody wants to be broken. And I was thankful early on that I was broken enough in the right way, with the right perspective, where those moments of brokenness didn't define me. They refined me and made me a better person. Now transition from those broken moments, me being fired 6 times in the NFL, me being rejected by most colleges going into the NCAA, those moments made me a better CEO, because I'm no stranger to difficult times. Like, I'm no stranger to being told no. Like, those things fuel me. I'm always going to find ways to be better. So that is the number one trait that, serves me well now, being a CEO in the entrepreneur space.
Okay, first off, you got me all fired up now. I'm going to run through a brick wall. Awesome. And, I know you do a lot of this with your speaking career now too, which is also a career that I'm into, keynote speaking. What inspired you to get into that space? Like, what's the message that you give people? Do you touch on these athlete sensibilities in your speaking too?
For sure. I definitely do. And it really came to, I used to hate speaking. I used to lie to get out of speaking opportunities, even at Cal. People would ask me to come by and, talk. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. My back was sweated. My hands would be sweaty up there. So that was something that I was not into. But I got to a point in that Jacksonville year in 2013 where I was really thinking like, okay, what is next in my life? And I was in the darkest moment of my career, a lot of rejections at the NFL. I was 26 years old at the time, or 27 years old at the time. And I'm a 6-year NFL veteran. I'm on an inactive roster, on practice squad. I'm getting laughed at. I've been told that my best years are so-called behind me. And I'm on injury reserve at the end of the year, and I'm thinking about, man, what do I want to do? Like, I know there's something in me, and I start thinking about my gifts. And my wife, one day when we had our first kid, my oldest son, Judah, and we're walking. I would take a walk with him in the evening time, and just to get some time with just me and him. And sometimes my wife would join me, and she's like, "What's next?" And I thought about things that I love to do, and I loved encouraging people. I love lifting people up. So even in that dark time, I was on injury reserve, but I would go and reach out to other players, see how I could help them, serve them in any capacity, pray for them, love on them, support them in any way. While I may be down, I didn't want to limit I didn't want my adversity to paralyze my impact. Like, I felt like I still am valuable. I'm still useful. I may be injured, but I'm not dead. So I wanted to use that time to at least help somebody else reach their goals. And during that time, I started going out speaking, and I started sharing my story, and I started loving it. And to see the smile on people's faces and the feedback, it was like, okay, this is a sweet spot for me.
Man, I love that. I think it speaks so deeply when you can take a story like that, a story of extreme hardship, and turn it into a gift that you can give other people. I mean, that's just like its purpose in life. I know it's what gives me up out of bed every day. And that's so cool to hear you doing that too. Yeah. But I'm going to throw out 3 words here. That's real, brave, and relentless. This is on your website. Can you talk about what those words mean to you and your company? And is there a tie into sports there with that?
Yeah, those are our pillars. That's the kind of culture that we have. Like, if you don't, it'll be very hard for you to work within the company if you don't have those kind of pillars within you. Like, you have to be real. You got to be authentic. Like, whoever you are, like, we don't want people putting on this persona. We don't want the Instagram version of you. We want the real you, because our consumer, this is who they are. Like, they live fitness and health and wellness. Like, it's not a game to them. So every day they just exude authenticity, and they know fake when they see it. So we have to be authentic to who we are. And that's what we love. Like, when we think about hiring, we want authentic people that know thyself. And when you know thyself, some of those other decisions come a lot easier. You get in a problem when people don't know yourself, and if you don't know your brand. So that's where that real part comes in. And brave, like, you gotta be fearless. Like, it is a mindset to, like, I'm going after life. Like, I'm lion chasing. Like, I know what I'm going after is daunting. Like, I want to be the Gatorade of hygiene. Like, this is something that would scare most men, being on this journey, being an entrepreneur. You know, I know entrepreneur is like a sexy term out there, especially since Shark Tank, but this is hard work day in and day out. And there's competitors. You're going up against monsters, legacy brands like, you know, Johnson & Johnson. You're going up against, you know, the Unilevers and the Procter & Gambles of the world. So you got to have that mindset. Like, I'm just going to, like, attack today. I'm going to be fearless. And I don't care if I get nicked up along the way, but I'm going to go out fighting. So that's the kind of mindset that our consumer and the people that I want working for me. Like, I want foxhole individuals that know how to handle the foxhole just as well as they handle the mountaintop. And so that's where that brave part comes in. Then relentless, that goes back to that perseverance. People that don't take no for an answer, that grit, that mindset that I'm going to accomplish my goal by any means necessary. People that won't be confined to boxes. Like we say all the time, like, boxes are for things, not people. And I prided myself in my professional career as being a box breaker. Like, I wasn't going to be this 5'8", 195-pound running back, scat bat that can only come on a third downs or be on special teams. No, Now, I'm being relentless in my pursuit, and I'm going to be great, and I'm going to find a way to be a featured back. I'm going to be an every down back. I'm going to be the best back that on my team. And so that mindset of being relentless into your pursuit of greatness, that's what we're seeking as a brand, and the same goes for our consumer.
Man, your running style translates perfectly into your business. You're definitely the hitter, or not the hitty, when you're going through that hole.
Exactly.
Oh, man. I'm telling you that there's so much awesome goodness in what you just said. I have so many things I want to say, but I'm going to try and limit myself here. First thing is, for the entrepreneurs listening, definitely, my sense is it feels like lots of mundane tasks performed at high speed. That's the non-sexy version. Like, it's not the splashy, I raised $1 billion, thing that you see on TechCrunch. It's like, you just got a lot of work you got to get through. Then of the things that you need to get through, there's a lot of, to your point, like a lot of things that you don't expect that are not good news. Things that like, a supply chain that's not going to deliver on time, whatever it is. Like I often refer to Ben Horowitz. Ben Horowitz has got this great adage. He's like, when I was an entrepreneur, he's like, I just slept like a baby, which is to say that I woke up every 2 hours crying every night. And, like stress, sweating, another previous boss I had founded weddingchannel.com, and he described to me, the night before his business partner had raised half of a round that they were supposed to bring in $1 million. And I think it was to 500, and his business partner raised 250 from one person. And then he raised 250 from a whole bunch of other people. And then like the day before they were going to sign, like his business partners group pulled out, and they were out of money. Yeah. So his big decision was it kept him up all night. Like, do I tell everybody that we're out of money? We don't. And that was its whole story. So it's like that, but all the time. So you got to, the last thing I was going to mention is that as a former running back, you were saying something about this, but I personally feel like, football is great training for entrepreneurship, partially because you said something like you get hit, you get knocked down 7 times, you get up 8. Well, in football and in a lot of the sports that our athletes play, you actually do physically get knocked down. So not only are you emotionally taxed that seventh time when you're wondering if you're going to get up, like, and you're just like, feel like you can't, like you're getting your ass kicked or whatever. But like, physically, like it is literally hard to get off the ground because your body is sore, your muscles are tired, you're cramping. So when you actually get into business, that whole physical part's gone. So like the emotional part you're used to, and it's the only thing there. So it's actually feels kind of easy in comparison. I mean, that's not easy, but you know what I mean? It's like it lacks that, like the physical component is gone. So I think it's actually extraordinarily good training. So I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but that's
it's great. It's great training. I'm not getting hit by JJ Watt or trying to block Julius Peppers anymore, but every day it's important because even where athletes will struggle with identity crisis, entrepreneurs struggle with identity crisis, where you feel that your value is strictly based on your performance as an entrepreneur. And I tell entrepreneurs this all the time, like, for us as a brand, we want our consumers chasing holistic greatness. Yeah. So that is just not going after one sector of life. Like, your body is one thing, but you got to take care of your mind. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of your spirit. It's like this 3-part, like, holistic mindset that you got to pour in. So I'm not taking the hits that I'm not used to, like by JJ Watt on Sundays, but I'm getting less sleep. So how do I pour into my body? How do I make sure I'm getting up early in the morning, get up at 5 a.m. and I'm getting to work out and making sure that I'm investing in holistic greatness in the physical? How can I get ways to get some meditation and get some prayer time in to make sure that I'm not allowing the stress to overcome me and overwhelm me with this job?
That is so important. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
It is great. I think we neglect it, but I think being an athlete, like, we've been to these painful points where we had to push ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually to these depths before. So we're not strangers to trying to find ways to, like, okay, like in football, I'm going through a bad time. I'm not getting the playing time that I want. I'm not hitting the records or the statistics that I want. So I have to find ways, like maybe I got to vent. Maybe I got to go talk to my coach. Maybe I have a teammate that I can vent to and talk and release some things where I'm not holding things in and allowing things to build up and have this big explosion later down the road. How can I press myself in a peak condition? Like, maybe I'm not as fast as I want to be. I'm not as strong as I want to be, but I'm going to push my body to the limit. Like, I'm going to do the extra stairs. We had to own your home at Cal. I'll never forget where I'm running up those stadium stairs and owning every step because I want to be in peak condition. So when my moment comes, my opportunity comes for success, that I will seize it because there's no telling when it comes. So I think that we as athletes are prepared to succeed at the next level. And that's why I look for entrepreneurs. That's why we have an internship program where we're getting Cal players to come in. Like, we have Joshua Drayden right now as an intern
nice.
For us. It is a huge asset. It's a huge edge.
Wow. There's so much good. I encourage everybody who's listening to this to listen to that little session over and over again, because it is a big deal. Keeping yourself fit mentally, emotionally, when you're and so forth, when you're an entrepreneur, because otherwise you run out of energy. It's like you can't march the army all the time, but you got to also be ready for the moments when you got to go fast.
Yep. Well, it's seasonal, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling somebody the other day, like, you in football and in sports, there's no way that you're going through season mode year round. There's an off season, and then there's your regular season, and the off season is just as important as the regular season. As football, most of our time is dedicated to practice and preparation. Most of our time, like, we have in the NFL, you have 16 games. You got 7 to 9 months, depending on what area you're playing football, where you're strictly practicing, and then you're going out there and to play 16 games a year. So yeah, it's important.
So as you know, something like 98% of the student athletes at Cal, they go pro in something other than their sport, like right when they graduate. And then there's people like you, the other 2% who go pro after a pro career, which for a lot of people actually arguably is harder, because you're in your mid 30s or late 20s or something, and you got to try and figure out what you want to do with your life. And we've heard really poignantly from this group that it's like, it's really a transition of self-identity. you go from the sort of the athlete you to the post-sports you, and we've heard it's really, really hard, difficult. I mean, I can certainly remember that moment. I don't know if how hard it was for you. Sound like you got like right after it, but anyway, we, our student athletes wonder, what they're going to do with their life, how their life's going to unfold, what the first steps that they can take are, and so forth. And so we're wondering if you're 35, right? 35 now?
35.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if your 35-year-old self, had some guidance for your, say, 22 to 20-year-old self, it could be anything. It could be career guidance. It could be like general guidance, or both. Like, what would you say?
Early on, that you're more than an athlete. Early on, you're so much more. You have so much to give the world. I retired at age 32. And if I could go back and tell the young Justin at 22, it's like, man, there's so much more for you. There's so much more impact. Your value is not based on your performance or how many touchdowns you score or how many people are in the crowd standing and cheering your name. Like, you are created for more. And so that's what I would tell the athletes now, because that identity thing is in a struggle. It's not just athletes either. I know military men and women that struggle with the same thing. When you do something for so long, that becomes my identity. But there's also a fear of that. That's all that you can do. But you, like, being an athlete, like, there's so many skill sets that people are like dying to have, right? I went to a Tony Robbins event, a couple of years ago, and just to watch him in action, and it was insane about just how many of the attributes they were in there, like chanting for and like just falling over the ground for. They're just like, man, this is like trying to get yourself ready for a pitch or get yourself for a job interview. Like, man, we know how to run through a wall. We know how to go out there and get ready, and we don't need that external factor to get us going. Like, we're like self-motivated people that can turn it on when we need to turn it on. So things like that, like, man, there's so much value in what we do.
Yeah, it's so true. There's so much to the we think the athlete's mindset is sort of some things that are native to the athlete's experience, as it were.
Yep.
End up being just immensely valuable. Like the thing that other people who haven't played sports, not the only way to get this stuff, but they struggle to get. Rob and I have talked about, like, preparing, for years, sometimes decades, to get faster by, a couple of ticks on the 40 time, clock, or if you're in the pool, to get like 100th of a second faster, and like, those margins at the end of the day end up being the difference between winning and losing, and they end up being the difference between making it and not. And athletes, like, completely get that. Recovering from injuries, like, things like that. Like, there's setbacks, big setbacks. That's normal. We treat. We get into the training room, we start lifting.
Yep.
You come back, all these little things that are just so normal in sports, so native to the experience, like a lot of other people don't have. So I think it's really, and I think this idea that you said of having, multiple dimensions of worth is also just so important. It's, and Rob is at the Welcome Back Barbecue at the beginning of each year, we say a few words to 850 student athletes and all the coaches. And one of the themes is get going on a couple things you're interested in, not just your sport, and get going early, because you got a lot to give. But you said really well. Tony Robbins has nothing on you, by the way. So we got to get people down to listen to you speak. So, and on that note, how can our listeners follow you? And if they want to do that internship, how do they reach you? And how can we point them to you?
Yeah, I mean, all of my handles on social media is jforsett, at jforsett. My email is at jforsett. jforsett at hustleclean.com if you want to reach out, find more about the internship. But yeah, that's how you can reach me. I'm around.
Cool. Well, Justin, that was awesome. Like, now, like Rob said, like, I'm all pumped up, and thank you so much for spending the hour with us. That was, our kids are going to love this. This is such a good segment. I'm really pleased. Thank you so much. Go Bears.
Go Bears. Thank you for having me, man. I really had a great time sharing with you guys today.